So now that we have our before hook set up here, let's just add a couple more let's add a couple more tests to verify that our decentral bank is also loading up, because we've done the tether deployment, the reward token. We haven't done that one. And then also to make sure that we have tokens in our decentral bank. We should have 1 million reward tokens. We should have 1 million reward tokens, because remember when the customer is going to be depositing money, they're going to be staking that money into our application, and then in return, we're going to be rewarding them. So we need to have those reward tokens. So let's write those tests. So the first thing we want to do is write another test here, very similar to the other two. So we can just copy and paste the describe, right? And instead of reward token, this is going to be our decentral bank deployment. And you know what? I didn't write deployment next to reward token. Let's just do that just for the writing's sake. And we're going to match the name. So over here, the constant name is going to be decentral bank, right? And that's going to grab it from up here, right? We have decentral bank, and decentral bank loads before we do the descriptions over here. So let's do that. Okay, and next up, let's see that we've got some money in this bank that we can be allocating. So all we have to do here is we'll just write it. There are tokens, or we can even say contract has tokens. And we're going to run async again pattern over here. And what are we going to, and how exactly are we going to write the logic to check that our decentral bank has these tokens? Well, we need to check that it has the reward tokens specifically, right? So what we can do is we can create a balance like this, and we're going to wait. And what's the balance we're actually checking for? Well, it's the reward token balance, right? So what we want to do is we can do reward dot balance of balance of and decentral bank dot address, right? So this is going to be a variable. So we could just do let balance. And we're only going to use it once, so we don't need to put it on top. So we're going to await the balance of our rewards in the decentral bank address, right? Makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, don't worry. Don't worry too much. We're going to see that in action. And so to complete this now, we can do an assertion to run that it's equal. So we can say assert, oops, I don't know why it just randomly did that. Assert dot equal, and we want to check equal. And what do we want to check to be equal here? The balance, right? So balance, and what do we want it to be equal to? Well, we want to be able to have 1 million reward tokens, right, in the bank, because we're getting the total supply. So we want to bring in tokens, and we set the amount. And luckily, we don't have to put in a ton of zeros because of our special helper function. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, let's save that. Awesome. All right, so now let's run the test, and this is going to add some tests for us, right? We had 2, now we should have 4 tests. 2. Now we should have now we should have more tests to check the name of the central bank being equal in the contract, as well as the tokens, the transfer of tokens. So let's go ahead back to the terminal and run truffle test. And hopefully you're starting to get the hang of this whole. And oh boy, it looks like we've got a big problem here. Everything just started failing. Now, why is this happening? Let's take a look. Okay, so let's take a look and see why everything just failed really badly on us, what I could have done wrong here. The first thing is, if I scroll up, I see that we're requiring assert from the console, and it's doing this automatically. I'm going to get rid of that. So if that happened to you, just delete that. We don't need that. Second up here, let's check out just these 2 last tests that we made, because everything was working up to this point. So the central bank deployment, right? The name needs to match the central bank. So our name is decentral bank. Decentral bank? No, decentral, just 1 E. So I had a typo there. Maybe you caught that. Hopefully you did. equal the name to reward token. Okay, so that's a copy paste mistake. We don't want the central bank to equal reward token. We want this to be the central bank. Okay, so that should fix that. Let's look under here. So we create balance to be the reward balance of the central bank address, right? And we want to assert that the balance is going to be equal to 1,000,000, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Snap. So this needs to be 6, right? So let's save this, make sure this is 6 zeros, go back to the terminal, and let's run the truffle test again. Token deployment matching, the central bank match name successful, and the contract has the right amount of tokens. And we can just double check that. If you want, you can go back to the code and add an extra 0 or take one away, save it, and run the test again. And this time it should fail. Okay, and we see that it fails, and that makes sense, right? So if we check where the failure is, it's in the contract has tokens. So that's the 4th test over here that we have rolling, or the second part of the 3rd test. And the assertion error here says that it needs to equal this amount. So there's a mistake with our zeros, so we can fix that. And after fixing that, awesome. And after fixing that, you can check again, make sure it works. And okay, awesome, this is it. We actually now have done all the groundwork to set up our tests, set up our deployment environments, smart contract functionalities, and all the groundwork we need to really get to the exciting part of building out our smart contract for our digital bank. So really good job coming this far, sticking with it. The upcoming code now is going to be about the issuing of the tokens, the depositing, some exciting features. So looking forward to getting into that with you in the next video. Bye-bye.